Hello and welcome to this video. We have already begun our poetry section with our first poem that was The Seven Ages of Men by William Shakespeare, and today we'll move on to our second poem, that is One Day I Wrote Her Name by Edmund Spenser. Now before I begin with the poem, I would like to brief you about the poet Spenser. Spenser was an English poet and he was born in 1552 and कई books में आपको ये date 53 भी मिल सकती है, and he is popularly known as the poet's poet. चार्ल्स लैम्ब जो कि एक बहुत फेमस एक एसिस्ट है इंग्लिश के, एंड ही गेव दिस टाइटल टू स्पेंसर दैट ही इज द पोएट्स पोएट because of the very high quality of his poetry, and because he enjoyed the pure artistry of his poetry. He was a great craftsman when it came to poetry, and that is the reason that many poets considered him a great poet, and he was rightly called by Charles Lamb the poet's poet. Spenser अपने एक canonical work है उनका epic poem, that is the title of the poem is The Fairy Queen. उसके लिए काफ़ी famous रही हैं. That is his typical Spenserian work. Spenser was a well-read guy. He was a man of knowledge, and he knew a whole lot about his country's literature, about the culture, and a whole lot about the classical Greek and Roman literature and culture too. And he felt like England was in need of an epic, all of its own, to go head-to-head with epics like the Greek epics. So he sat down and wrote the famous epic, The Fairy Queen, which is one of the most important poems of the Renaissance. And Fairy Queen उनकी सबसे famous एक creation है, and other than that उन्होंने काफ़ी सारी sonnets भी लिखी हैं, and he wrote a whole sequence of sonnets, and the famous sonnet sequence is called Amoretti, and the present poem which we are going to take up today is part of that sequence. It's a part of that collection Amoretti, and this is sonnet number 75 from that collection Amoretti. Spenser invented his own form of sonnet, which was named after him and is called Spenserian sonnet. The sonnets which were written before Spenser, they were about the unrequited love, about the one-sided love, the love wherein the other person doesn't feel the same way as you feel for the person, and is unrewarded, unreciprocated. But Spenser, because he himself had a happy love life, he courted Elizabeth Boyle and eventually married her. So his sonnets carry happy ending, and it's about happy love. Spenserian sonnet has three quatrains and a final couplet, and all the quatrains, they are interlocked with the rhyme. And the rhyme scheme of the Spenserian sonnet is A B A B B C B C C D C D E E. Spenser is counted today amidst the most outstanding of Elizabethan poets, and he was one of the key literary figures of the English Renaissance, along with Shakespeare, Sidney, Marlowe, John Donne, and even John Milton. And that is the reason that Charles Lamb called him the poet's poet. Many of you might have opted for the subject for the very first time, so you are a beginner when it comes to literature. So I would advise you to go through the history of literature, history of English literature, because it's very important. Even if you don't find history fascinating and you don't find it fun, still I would request you to go through it, because for the understanding, for the in-depth understanding of your course, of your syllabi, it's very important to understand the history. And you can go for the basic books, and once you get the basic idea, the overview of literature, and once you have that, then you can go ahead with David Ditches for the detailed description of all the periods. And if you are somebody who is not keen to kickstart this new habit with the books, so you can go through the Wikipedia for each period. And to study history, the books that I would personally recommend is William Long's History of Literature and Louis Kazamian. Both are very good writers, William Long's History and Louis Kazamian. And make a table of all the political happenings of the time and the literary works, because you need to be very well acquainted with the major writers of each and every period about the happenings of that period, the political happenings and the literary works, the most seminal works of the time. And since you have opted for literature, you are most likely to stumble upon these things time and again. Hence, it's imperative for you to have a strong base of history. Okay, now we'll move ahead with the poem, and please pay attention on the text of the poem on your screens. One day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed it away. Again I wrote it with a second hand, but came the tide and made my pains his prey. Vain man, said she, that dost in vain assay a mortal thing so to immortalize. For I myself shall like to this decay, and let my name be wiped out likewise. Not so, God I. Let baser things devise to die in dust, but you shall live by fame, by verse. Your virtues rare shall eternize, and in the heavens write your glorious name. Where when as death shall all the world subdue, our love shall live, and later life renew. In the opening stanza of the poem, the speaker of the poem and his beloved, they both are hanging out on a beach, on a strand, and the speaker, the lover, he scrawls the name of his beloved on the rocky sand, but then the waves come and they wash the name away. And he repeats the process, but again the same thing happens. The waves come with the normal ebb and flow, and they wash it again. And all his pains, all his hard work, it goes in vain. The tide, it wastes all of his hard work as it washes away the name which he has written with so much of love. And after watching this vain attempt of the lover, this vain attempt of the speaker to write her name on a rocky sand, even after knowing that the waves are coming and they will eventually wash the name away, so the beloved speaks that you are a vain man. Why are you just fooling yourself? What are you doing? Your effort is not going to materialize. So why are you wasting your energies on writing my name? And more than that, I'm a mortal human being. So eventually I'm supposed to die. I'm supposed to wither away. So how you can make an attempt to immortalize somebody who is a mortal, who is destined to be a mortal? And and she says that like her name is washed away by the waves, so she too is destined to wither away from this world, as the waves in the poem, they represent the cycle of life, the ebb and flow of life, the cycle of life and death. So she compares, it works as a metaphor here. The waves, the moment of the waves is compared with the moment of life and death. And Shraddha Beloved states that her name too will be wiped out in a similar way, like she will be wiped, and so her name is wiped by the waves. And these waves actually represent the cycle of life, life and death. And one just can't stop this cycle, but the poet says that he will be able to stop this cycle, the cycle of the waves. And instead of being destroyed by the waves, he says that his beloved's name, it will rise above them, and it will live forever in the form of poetry. And that shows the part of poetry in which the poet and the speaker of the poem, he has a faith. And this one is about love, it's about immortality, and more than anything, it's about the power of poetry. In the next part of the poem, it's the speaker, it's the lover who responds to the beloved, and he states that it's the destiny of the baser things, the minor things, to get lost in the decay, to get decayed with time, and to die in dust. But you are my beloved, you are the love of my life, and I won't let you wither away, I won't let you to be washed away by the death. So, and you will stay forever, and you will live by the fame. And he further states that his words has the power to eternalize her, to immortalize her, and her virtues, all of her qualities, which the poet will write in his poetry, in utilizing her, and that will keep her forever alive in the form of art, in the form of his poetry. And he states that he promises that he will write her name in the heaven, her glorious name. He will write her name in the heavens, and that is through his poet. And at the time when death will sweep away everything, her name will be secure. Her name will be secure and safe in the form of his poetry. Her name will be recalled by everybody in the form of poetry, and she will be immortal forever. And so will be their love. The beloved will be immortal, and their love too will be immortal in the form of poetry, and it will get renewed. So it makes it clear that the beloved, that the lover, the poet, he has a great faith in the power of poetry. He has a strong faith on his own love, and he has a strong intention to keep his to make his beloved immortal, and the way that he has discovered for it, the way which he has invented to immortalize her, that is his poetry. That he will write about his beloved in his poetry. He will make a verse on her, he will make a poem on her, and that poem will stay forever. And in the form of that poem, her name will be immortal. And if we see it today, the lover is no more, the beloved is no more, but still we are reading this poem centuries after. So that shows the sustaining ability, the sustaining power, the immortalizing power of art, which the lover in the poem is talking about, that the name of the beloved and their love itself will be immortalized in the form of poetry. Immortalizing power of poetry is one of the themes of this poem. So to repeat once again, the poet and the beloved, they are on a beach, and as you see the first two lines of the text, that one day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed it away. That is both the lover and the beloved, they were on the strand, they were on the beach, and the lover, he did write the name of the beloved on the sand, but the waves came and it washed away the name. Again I wrote it with a second hand, and then he made a second attempt. He tried again to write the name, but came the tide and made my pencil spray. And when he wrote the name for the second time, the waves came again, the tide came again with the ebb and flow, and it again washed the name, and all of his pains, all of his hard work, it got washed away by the waves. Vain man, said she, that dost in vain essay. And then the beloved replies that you are vain man, what are you doing? It's of no use to write my name. A mortal thinks so to immortalize, and she states that she is a mortal human being, and the poet and the lover, he is trying to immortalize a person who is mortal, which according to her is not possible. For I myself shall like to this decay. And she says that the destiny which my name has suffered, that you have written my name and it got washed away, the same thing is going to happen with me too, because we all human beings, we are mortals, and we are destined to decay, we are destined to disappear. And so she says that I myself will decay and my name will be wiped out, likewise like the waves have washed my name. Not so, let baser things devise. But then comes a reply from the lover, then comes a promise from the lover that no, you are not a baser thing, you are not a mean thing, you are my beloved. That means he esteems high of his beloved, and he states that you are not destined to decay, you are not a baser thing, and to get lost in decay is the destiny of baser things, and you are not a baser thing because you are my beloved, you are the love of my life. To die in dust, so you won't die in dust, but you shall live by fame. So, but you will become popular and you will live forever. My words, your virtues are shall eternize, because you are a virtuous lady, you are my beloved, and I'm going to write a poem on you. I'm going to write a poem recording all of your good qualities, all of your virtues, and you will be remembered forever. And in the heavens write your glorious name, and in this way your name, your virtuous name, your esteemed name will be written in the glorious heavens. Where when as death shall all the world subdue, and when the time will come for everything to get lost, everything to get decayed, when everything will meet its destiny, its decay, then too you will remain forever, because our love shall live, because our love is pure, and you are my beloved, and our love is pure, and our love will stay forever in the form of this poetry, and so will you. You will remain forever in the form of this poetry. Your virtues will be recalled forever by the people in the form of this poetry. And if we talk about the speaker in the poem, then there are certain things which we come to know about him through this poem. And first of the things which we get to know about him is that he is a poet, and he is in love with this girl in the poem. And he has a strong faith in the power of poetry, and he strongly believes that poetry has the power to immortalize people and immortalize life. And as he promises to his beloved that the waves can wash her name, but his art has the capacity to preserve his name in the form of poetry, and he intends to immortalize his beloved in the form of poetry by writing a poem on her. He wants to record her beloved forever. He may sound vain, or he may even sound a little bit full of himself, but actually it's his love for poetry and his love for his beloved that makes him, that gives him such a strong conviction that he can immortalize the name of his beloved in his poetry. Now, if we talk about the themes of the poem, so the first theme which comes to us is immortality. And when the poet says immortal, he doesn't actually means to live forever. He has a more metaphorical view of immortality. That is, the virtues of the person, the virtues of the beloved, they will be remembered and they will be recorded in the form of poetry. The love that they shared, that will be recorded in the poetry. So that is his idea of immortality. It's not about literally living forever. It has a metaphoric connotation to it. So this poem shows a striving for immortality, and art is presented here as a means to achieve that, as a mode to achieve that immortality. So art, according to poet, according to a speaker, art has that stabilizing power, art has that immortalizing power. As the speaker also knows that his beloved will eventually die, and that he can't really make her live forever. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, people die. But the speaker really and truly believes that immortality can be achieved through great works of art, and if you make it, immortality will come. And the second theme is that of love, as we have seen that we have seen the speaker's love for his beloved, and he's also focused on his poetry skills, and he wants to use his skills to immortalize his beloved. Regular old human love is not enough for the speaker. He wants immortal and forever kind of love. And this is his incredibly romantic point of view. So this sonnet number 75 is most definitely a love poem, and what matters to him the most is his love living forever, more than the person living forever, and that is his romantic version of his love. So as we have already discussed in our intro, that this poem is a poeticized version of Spenser's personal successful courtship of Elizabeth Boyle and his eventual marriage. And there were 89 sonnets in the total sequence that is entitled Amoretti, and this one is the 75th in that sequence. Now, if we talk about the figures of speech used in this poem, then we'll find that this poem is full of alliteration. Alliteration, as we have already discussed in our last video, it's a repetition of sound, and a repetition of a sound in a sentence. If you just observe the lines waves and washed, so they alliterate. And then if we talk about pain and pray, so again the sound P is repeated here. Again, we have the harsh D, device, die, and dust. So D sound is repeated. And then again we have the V sound repeated in was and virtues. Again we have where, when, as, love, was sound again, live, live. Okay, and later we have later life. So we have love, live, later life. So again L sound is repeated. So the repetition of L and V2 is there. So this whole poem is full of alliteration, as it's a rhythmic poem. We have talked about it, about the rhyme scheme, as it is a Spencerian poem. So rhyme scheme is a basic feature. And this poem is written in an almost perfect iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter wherein every line has 5 iambs. Iamb is a pair of syllables, wherein the first syllable is unstressed and the second syllable is stressed. Well, that sums our poem. Should you have any doubts or queries, please don't hesitate to leave the comments, and I would appreciate if you would explore more of Spenser on the internet. Thank you for your patient listening.